Hey guys, welcome to the WWE podcast. We're going to get the Monday Night Raw review going in just a minute, and what an eventful night with the 3 punts by Randy Orton to Drew McIntyre, Keith Lee's debut, Sasha and Bayley continue to fall apart. There's so much to get to. Let's get everything going right now.
Welcome to the WWE podcast, the most passionate and authentic wrestling analysis on the web. We've got you covered with every Raw, SmackDown, and NXT show, giving you a no bullshit opinion. We know you love wrestling. We do too. So let's get this show underway.
And that's the bottom line. What? 'Cause Stone Cold said so.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE podcast on this Tuesday, August 25th, 2020. Hope y'all are doing well. We're about to close out August, if you can believe that. I mean, we got 6 days left, and then it's September. I mean, whoa, summer's pretty much gone, and I hope you enjoyed it, and you still got a little time left, and if you love football, well, you don't have to wait much longer. A couple of weeks and football will be underway, albeit without fans, which is killer in every single sport and is no more true than in professional wrestling presentations. But no worries. WWE has their Thunderdome, which I continue to have mixed feelings about. And where I really fall on the side of the Thunderdome is it's certainly better than empty chairs. The question becomes, though, is it better than the actual NXT trainees that were standing in as true wrestling fans, true WWE, unbiased, true fans, right? I mean, they are truly fans of the product. They wouldn't be there if they weren't trying to train and make a living doing this. But for an unbiased opinion, they're not true fans. So I'm trying to really debate in my mind which, to me, is a better presentation. Those false fans that are in attendance in person, or the actual fans that are at home, albeit with basically tape over their mouths, unable to speak. They can certainly cheer through their cameras and clap and make faces and everything else, but it's still not the same without the voice of the fans. So we're halfway there. We've got the face of the fans. Now give them a voice. Again, I've said this over the last couple of days. I don't know how you do that, given the huge liability and the logistics of giving everyone audio. It would be a complete mess. It'd be a complete mess. So I don't think you can. But I've still continued to say, why don't you just give them 3 buttons that they can push? Right? 3 buttons, whether it's boo or cheer, or you can do a clapping or something like that. And that's what I've continued to suggest. I think at that point they would actually have a little bit of a influence on the show beyond just being static images or whatever it may be. That, again, I appreciate the presentation, and if I was given the opportunity, yeah, I'd participate. It'd be kind of cool, but I don't know. And I don't know about if you guys saw this, and I also have a bit of dark humor in this one, if you find humor at all in it. Somebody last night on Raw put a picture of Chris Benoit as who they were standing in for. Like, on their feed, they weren't putting it on themselves. They had a picture of Chris Benoit, and so that is going around social media. It's things like that WWE has to endure. I mean, they can cut people's feeds at any time. I don't know how they have. I mean, people looking at every single feed of every single second. I'm guessing there's a little bit of a delay, but I don't know how you do a delay, given that when Drew McIntyre asked for thumbs up, there was only like a 1 second delay between thumbs up when he asked it and when it happened. So I don't know how this all works, but my bottom line is that this is, I think, a good idea. I think it's brought viewers back to at least see what the hell the Thunderdome means and to get out of that warehouse of a performance center. And, no disrespect to the performance center, because had it not been for the performance center, I don't know if we would have had WWE the last 5 months. I mean, think about it. If that warehouse didn't exist, where would have WWE done their TV production? What would they have done? Done reruns for 5 months? I mean, that would have been tough. So, but I'm with everyone here. I am over the Performance Center presentation. It's done. If I never see the Performance Center again, I will be just fine. I think we've seen every crevice of that place. We've seen The Last Man Standing with Edge and Orton. We've seen 4 or 5 pay-per-views in that building. And, look, God bless them, but I'm over it, and I'm happy to move on to the Amway Center that they're trying to dub the Thunderdome. Fine. I mean, look, they need to bump up ratings, and I understand. So, okay, we're going to get to Monday Night Raw in a second. First, thank you for joining me. If you guys didn't catch last night's show, very special show with the Botch Guy on YouTube. If you don't know who the Botch Guy is, go check him out on YouTube. We did a collaboration review for SummerSlam on my show for about an hour, and then I hopped over on his feed after Raw last night and did about a 15-minute show recapping the big-ticket items for Monday Night Raw. And yeah, I appeared on video. So those of you that are like, what the hell does this guy look like, if you didn't already know, well, you get to check it out. My camera on my laptop ain't so great. So, but you get the gist. If you're interested in seeing that presentation, head on over to the Botch Guy on YouTube and check out his video of the Raw review. He doesn't do reviews. So, I think that's a little bit of uncharted water for his feed, and I'm happy to oblige. But he's doing really well on his own, and is growing like crazy. I mean, he's getting hundreds of subscribers a day now, and it's growing and growing. And I can see him capping over 100,000. Honestly, maybe even by the end of this year, if the pace this goes, he's growing like crazy. And I'm glad to be a part of it. And super high energy guy. And I think that him and I work well, and I will definitely be having him back on this show, and hopefully he has me back on his, because it's fun to talk wrestling with somebody that's intelligent, energetic, and just overall good chemistry with. I mean, you either have it or you don't. And it was a lot of fun to talk with him last night about a little bit of SummerSlam, but really Monday Night Raw, which was a lot of fun. So, moving on to the schedule for the rest of the week. Well, tomorrow is our interview with Chris Van Vliet. And if you don't know who he is, check him out on YouTube. You've probably seen his interviews before. He's done interviews with everyone from The Rock to Kurt Angle. I mean, you name it. This guy has interviewed just about the best of the best. He's even interviewed Tom Cruise. I know that's not wrestling related, but just to show you the caliber of stars that this guy has spoken with. And I'm really excited to be able to talk with him tomorrow night. And we'll post a show. I'll be able to put it up probably around this time. Well, I say this time. I'm recording this as of like 9:45 at night, but it'll probably pop in your feed by Thursday morning if you go to sleep relatively early. And I'm really excited because we're going to talk about wrestling today. We're going to talk about maybe his favorite moments, what got him into doing what he's doing, and it's just going to be a great conversation. So check that out tomorrow. This is going to be a real fun one. I know that I normally do the Wrestling Nostalgia on Wednesdays, but this one was worth pushing aside for Chris and making time and being able to talk with him. And so keep your eyes peeled, or your ears in this case, for tomorrow night. I'll be posting it probably in the evening, Eastern Standard Time in the evening. So, alrighty, well, let's get to Monday Night Raw, which, I mean, take your pick of the headline, which is really one of two things, which is what the name of this review show is. Either Keith Lee's debut or the 3 punts. And on this show, we're going to start with Keith Lee. And you can hear some of my initial thoughts on the Botch Guy again. I gave some quick thoughts on Keith Lee. And I will be the absolute first to admit, have I seen every one of Keith Lee's matches? No. Have I been following NXT to a T regularly in detail? The answer is no. I have someone that covers that. I have a team of guys that cover the NXT. And it's not because that I don't watch or care about NXT, or I think the main product is always better. I would actually sometimes and oftentimes think the contrary. It's a simple matter of time. I'm one guy on this show, and it's a lot of work behind the scenes, and I think some people may not realize that, but my point is, I didn't follow and haven't followed NXT, Keith Lee specifically, super close. That being said, I knew who this guy was. I've been watching him. If you... Even as a casual fan, you saw his performance in the Royal Rumble. So you have a flavor of Keith Lee. You know what he is. You can feel his energy through the screen. And he made a big impact at the Royal Rumble, and many people speculated, when is he going to come up? Right? When is this guy going to come up? We could use him. Well, we got our answer. We got our answer on Monday night. And many people are really, really disappointed with the way they presented Keith Lee. The way they presented Keith Lee, they said, was they took the NXT presentation and tossed it out the door with his music, with his attire. And I will say this. I agree with that. I agree with the fact that there was no need to change his music. None. And to change his attire. Why? I don't understand the need to try to fix something that's not broken. I feel like a lot of it is Vince, and I'll be honest with you here, and maybe you disagree, but I think Vince McMahon doesn't follow NXT super close. I think that his vision for somebody gets mutated and warped. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. When somebody gets called up from NXT to the main roster. And I call it getting called up. It's like the minor leagues to the big leagues. But there's a lot of guys, including Kevin Owens, that have been very vocal about wanting to go back to NXT. And it's, I think, a safe haven for a lot of guys. And I know that Tommaso Ciampa has no interest in coming up. He's been that vocal about that, and I can see why. And they are a legitimate third brand. So I'm going to say being called up, but I don't mean it in disrespect to NXT, because NXT in its own right has proven to be a third brand, a legitimate third brand, not a pretender. So Keith Lee gets the call. He shows up. Vince probably has not seen Keith Lee to the level that maybe a lot of fans have, and maybe doesn't understand completely what makes fans love Keith Lee, and feels that either A, I can make this better, or thinks B, this isn't working. I can make this, or I can improve this. I can fix this. And I think that he feels like he has to have his fingerprints on any NXT star that comes up to main roster him. To put the Vincent Kennedy McMahon stamp of approval on it, you got to barcode them with some kind of nonsense. And I don't understand. I just don't. I don't get it. If you bring a guy like this up, a guy that it was NXT's biggest star, arguably. Yeah, you have Adam Cole, you have the Undisputed Era. I get it, right? But this is a guy that was a double champion, NXT champion, North American champion, relinquished the belts so that he could come here. And anytime a top champion drops a belt or belts, many people speculate, oh, that's because he's coming up. And Triple H alluded to this at a press conference, I think it was last year sometime, saying that that isn't always the case. That doesn't always have to be the case. That doesn't always have to be the formula of having an NXT star drop the belt as a clue to say, hey, I'm coming to the main roster. You know, it's been fun. I'm out of here. I mean, look what they did with Kevin Owens. He was the NXT champion when they brought him up and faced John Cena. And probably one of the best NXT debuts of all time. From NXT to the main roster, anyway. So, this Keith Lee thing, look, I will say this. I think the people that are super frustrated about the debut of Keith Lee, the way they used him last night, are those that have been following him for a significant amount of time, that really, truly get it. That understand why they love Keith Lee. They understand what makes Keith Lee a star. And they get super frustrated that Vince has to go and change things that don't need to be changed for the sake of trying to put his stamp of genius on things that don't need to be messed with when they come up to the main roster. I think those are the people that are being very vocal right now. If you talk to a casual fan that may not follow NXT or follows NXT casually and says, oh yeah, hey, I remember Keith Lee. He was in the Rumble this year, wasn't he? That was cool, yeah. I was hoping he'd come up sometime soon. those that are casual fans, or maybe have not ever seen Keith Lee, are probably intrigued. I would say that those people have a more positive outlook because they don't have something to compare it to from his previous presentation. So while you're seeing a lot of negativity about Keith Lee, I think that equally, there's probably fans out there intrigued and interested in his debut, saying, wait, who is this? Oh, he was in NXT? I thought I kind of recognized him. Or maybe they don't even know what NXT is. I mean, there are fans out there that don't watch NXT or even may not know what that is. I'm serious. Those fans exist. And that's kind of to WWE's benefit if they're going to continue with this presentation of Keith Lee the way that they presented him. And again, it's one night, but you don't have a second chance to make a first impression, as the cliche goes. So I was lukewarm about it. I was in between. And yes, I was not happy about the music change, no reason needed, and the attire, meh. But guess what? Those are two things that are easily fixable. Easily fixable. It's easy to put on something new, and it's easy to, hit the play button on a different track in the music set. So, again, I don't know if that's going to change, but maybe the fan backlash on this is strong enough that they decide to kind of go back to the roots of Keith Lee and just don't fix something that's not broken. But overall, look, my thoughts are that I'm slightly disappointed, but I don't hate it. And I think that's in part due to because I didn't watch everything that he's done. I wish I had. I don't think NXT is inferior. Again, it's personally, I just don't have the time, as you all know. So, again, I'm not super down on it. I think that they can repair this. It's not irreparable damage. I've seen comments all over the place of people thinking, oh, he's dead. They buried him. He's already, he's basically dead before he gets going. I think that's a little bit much. I think you're going a little bit far in that estimation. So this is something that can easily be repairable. And honestly, promos are something you can't really teach. You can teach it, but until you actually execute it, that's when the real learning happens. And Keith Lee has always had a very, very good promo. A guy that feels confident, that speaks differently than most. Little nuances he does. Those are the things that aren't as easily changeable. Or presence, promo, and in-ring ability. Those are the three things that aren't as easily changed. Music and attire, if those are your biggest gripes, honestly, if those are your biggest gripes, I think that you have to kind of relax a bit. And yeah, he had a match against Randy Orton, but it was a no contest, as many of us have expected. If you've been a wrestling fan for more than a year, you probably would have been like, well, it's Keith Lee's debut. You can't have him lose. But Randy Orton's been so damn hot. They've been building him for 6 months plus. You can't have him lose. This is going to a no contest. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly as it should have. It was more to just get Keith Lee a little bit of something, a little bit of everything. He got some mic time. He had kind of a match. He was involved in a main storyline. And also you learned that him and Drew McIntyre are close. So there are your things that you learned about Keith Lee on night one, if you don't know anything about him. So many people are starting with a clean slate as far as maybe they've never seen him before or have kind of seen him and don't know much about him. I think that's to their benefit, because I think those that are mad are the ones that have been following him very, very closely. So that's what I think about Keith Lee and his night one debut. The second item, and actually before I get to this, which I really am excited to talk about the 3 punts, I want to let you guys know if you want to voice your opinion on this show, we have a voicemail box. It's 518-952-0247. So call the number, leave a voicemail, and you can get on the show. And I'm interested to hear what you guys think about Keith Lee's debut, about SummerSlam in general, and about Monday Night Raw. Because this is a platform I want to give you guys a chance to get your voice on and be heard. So let me know, 518-952-0247. Another small little note. Next week, I'll be on vacation. I think I mentioned this earlier. I've been doing so many shows, I can't remember. But if you forgot, I'll be on vacation next week. What does that mean? Well, it will mean that I'm not going to be doing my normal weekend review. And you won't be hearing from me on a normal perspective. Now, again, I'll have my little mic with me. I can talk through my phone. I can record quick shows. If something big happens, I'm sure something over the course of the week will happen that I have to weigh in on. But what that's going to mean is, again, you'll have limited shows from me, but you'll have your normal NXT, AEW, Friday, WWE rivalries, all that. You'll have the normal progression of shows throughout next week, just very limited on my voice. So maybe some of you are like breathing a sigh of relief, or maybe you're saying, no, well, no fear. A week goes by really quickly. So I'll be back on, what the heck day is that? My first show back, as I look through the calendar here, September 6th, I think. So September 6th, I just had a lisp there. I'll be back with the weekend review. So that'll be my first full show back. So just wanted to let you guys know about that ahead of time. All right, so the punt, or should I say punts? Okay, so I'm not going to toot my own horn, but in this case, I feel like I should, because on the Botch Guys show, I think it was, no, not the Botch Guys show, on the show I did with their SummerSlam review at the Botch Guy, I said, hey, they have Payback in a week. That's probably the quickest turnaround I've ever seen for a WWE pay-per-view to pay-per-view. And they're going to have to build Randy and Drew again, because they ended on a note that kind of let Randy off the hook, but still gave Drew the win and kept Randy's heat. So I guess it was the best possible solution, although I still would have had Randy Orton just win clean. I mean, I just would have. I think it's worth the effort or the sacrifice of Drew, because I think Randy's a hotter heel than Drew is as a babyface. But I said on my show last night that the only way to do this is to turn this violent, because it's been pure wrestling. How do you turn it violent? Well, Randy's been really good at that lately. And I said Randy Orton could beat up, I might have even said punt kick Drew on Monday Night Raw and leave him questionable for Payback. It's exactly what I said. And lo and behold, go back and listen, boom, it happens. So I often don't get things that specifically correct, so I guess I do have to give myself a collective pat on the back. So it's now turned violent, and Randy Orton on Raw attacked Drew from behind on the stage after Drew cut a promo on him. Punt kicked him once, and then punt kicked him twice in the gorilla position. And then after Drew was still somehow able to get to his feet halfway through the show, Orton attacks him from behind again and punt kicks him a third time, sending him to the hospital in an ambulance. I guess they were concerned about brain bleeding and internal bleeding and all that kind of thing. I mean, I think what's going to happen is this is a perfect opportunity for Drew McIntyre to drop the belt to Randy. I've been advocating for this. Look, Randy Orton is champion. I've never felt so strongly about Randy Orton being champion than right now. Why? Because we have never seen this version of Randy Orton. We've seen the Legend Killer before, but we haven't seen a Legend Killer like this with so much experience behind him. This is Randy Orton at his absolute best. The best that I think he's ever been in his entire career. From in-ring to promo to even creative. I got to give them a pat on the back for what they've done. Building heat. Yeah, he was pinned on SummerSlam. Again, I don't like it. I still wouldn't have booked it that way. But it was done. And it still built heat because Randy Orton did not take a finisher. Randy Orton still has yet to feel or get hit with the Claymore. Finishers are rarely delivered to Randy Orton. The last finisher that was actually delivered to Randy Orton might have been, Big Show's chokeslam doesn't count. Christian never got a chance. Ric Flair was just beat up. Edge, hitting the spear on Randy Orton at the greatest wrestling match ever. I think that was probably the last time a finisher was hit on Randy Orton in the ring. So, A+ to the creative, Randy in execution, and I think there's no better time than now to have Drew drop the belt because he has an excuse, and at Payback, he could be stumbling around the ring, showing signs of blacking out. I'm thinking back to when Undertaker hit Austin in the head with a shovel. I think it was back in 1998, 99. And Austin, after that shovel shot, the weeks after, was showing signs of like stumbling around and that he literally blacked out and all these things. This is the storyline you would duplicate that in. This is the story to tell. Randy Orton or Drew McIntyre is going to go into Payback with a huge handicap and probably being diagnosed with a concussion, which WWE will let us know, and maybe even brain swelling. Right? I mean, you got to be really careful about the medical diagnoses because you can't go too far in saying that he has a brain bleed because there's no way in hell WWE would ever clear him. So how WWE is going to clear him in time for Payback is going to be probably funny to hear and watch, considering that some of the medical diagnosis we get at times is laughable. But that's the story we're being told, and I love it because if Drew loses, I think he's not hurt in this loss because of the way he's coming in, and he could put up a hell of a fight and come close, and Randy Orton kicks him again and hospitalizes him for weeks. I think that's how you go here. And having Randy continue to build heat, and maybe McIntyre still doesn't get a Claymore kick. This is getting to the point of just ridiculous heat with Randy. I mean, just ridiculous. I would love to hear the crowd reaction to this. I would love to hear it. And not the piped in crowd noise that WWE gets to play with on a weekly basis and live out their fantasy of being able to put in whatever crowd noise they would like to hear. Not that. I'm saying live, real fans. And so, anyway, I liked it. I really did. I know that some of the kicks that Randy Orton did were very laughable. The one he did backstage, the second one I think was the worst, when it was like not even close. It's not even close. But it's a dangerous spot because you can't get too close and risking actually kicking someone's head. I mean, there's not a whole lot of room for error. So I totally get it. But the second kick was just, I just go, ugh. I mean, I'm not, knocking on them. They're doing their best. They're being safe. I understand. And that is priority. But look, this was a great way to get into Payback and roll into Payback. So, all right. And if you didn't know, Roman Reigns is back. I know that's not something that happened on Raw, but boy, oh boy, didn't they make you remember? Didn't they make sure that you knew? I think they ran like 8 times Roman Reigns' return. They promoted the hell out of it. Again, I'm bringing this up. I know Roman Reigns isn't on Raw, he's on SmackDown, but it was promoted throughout Raw. So, I mean, it was to the point of like, oh my God. It felt like the whodunit angle with Eric Rowan running him down. I mean, it felt like I got flashbacks to that. Anytime anything big happens with Roman Reigns, they need to pound it into the ground, kill it, resurrect it, kill it again, and then bury it. I mean, they just don't stop when something big happens with Roman Reigns. So we have a Payback pay-per-view coming Sunday, of which, again, if you're going to ask for my predictions on that match, I know I don't have a true prediction show, but maybe in lieu of that, I'll give you some quick thoughts here. I think that this is a tough one. With the triple threat match between The Fiend, Braun Strowman, and Roman Reigns, again, without seeing SmackDown, this is tough, because that might provide some clues. I would say The Fiend still retains, because he just won it. And Roman Reigns coming back, I think, is a big deal. But to take the belt immediately, I think would, again, do a disservice to him in terms of fan support if you're going with Roman Reigns as a babyface. And I say that if, because I think that Roman Reigns has the opportunity to turn heel here. And look, we've been saying this for years, literally years, 5 years now, 5+ years we've been saying this. But if that was truly the tagline of "You'll never see it coming," That was genius. Now, do I think it's that? No. I think the you'll never see it coming was Roman Reigns' return. But him turning heel would be absolutely genius if that was indeed the plan. I don't think it is, because I think Braun Strowman is now truly a heel again, and Roman Reigns has taken that babyface spot back. So that's my prediction. I think The Fiend retains. Braun Strowman is the absolute least likely to regain it. This is really now about The Fiend and Roman Reigns. And Braun Strowman is there as kind of the third wheel, although you have a bit of a rivalry between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman because of the way that WrestleMania 36 went down this year, with Braun Strowman just basically walking into main event WrestleMania in a championship match. No one ever explained that, and I hope they explore that, because I was losing my mind about how that match happened with Goldberg. Why does he get an opportunity? It was never explained. Never. So I hope and I think that that is the reason why Roman Reigns attacked Braun Strowman. And The Fiend, we didn't get an explanation on that either. Why did Roman Reigns attack The Fiend? I don't see a story there. I know that we all, for months and months leading up to Mania this year, before the pandemic happened, figured that it was going to be Roman Reigns versus The Fiend at WrestleMania, and Roman's going to win. But, all right, I'm getting off track. So, another item on Raw here was Bayley and Sasha. And Sasha getting another opportunity at the Raw Women's Championship against Asuka in a Lumberjill match. And having Asuka retain was the right thing to do. And it was just there to, as Sasha loses, further drive a wedge between Bayley and Sasha. Again, their logic that Bayley wouldn't do the same for Sasha is unfounded. It's unfounded. What do I mean by that? I'll explain this one more time for those that didn't hear my SummerSlam review, because the narrative here is that Sasha helped Bayley in her match, but Bayley wasn't willing to do the same for Sasha in her match. Which is nonsense. Because the fact that Sasha took the hit from Asuka while she was facing Bayley for the SmackDown Women's Championship does not tell me she took the bullet. It tells me that she was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. And then having Bayley sidestep her in the same spot, but with Sasha in the match, was just self-preservation. Why would Asuka get caught in the ropes if someone's there? She would have bounced off that body of the person she's hitting instead of getting caught up in the ropes, versus having somebody not there and not getting caught up. Makes no sense. It's illogical, and I will say this one last time, because it's the best analogy possible. If you are taking the bullet for somebody, which is what they're trying to sell you on, you can only take the bullet for somebody if you're in front of them, not behind them. That is the opposite of taking a bullet for somebody. So whoever thought of this, the logistics for this one, I mean, you just plain weren't thinking. There's no two ways about it. Does anybody understand what I'm talking about? The way that went down? I know the narrative they're selling. I get it. It makes sense. It's a great way to start a huge program between these two. But the execution of it, I'm not faulting Sasha and Bayley. I'm faulting creative. It's just piss poor. So, okay. I think that I've driven that one into the ground, but we had Sasha lose after Bayley tried to get her the steel chair and was unable to. Again, not her fault. Bayley tried, and yeah. So, all right. I'm looking forward to this, and I think that at Payback, here's a prediction, another prediction as we continue our kind of quasi-Payback prediction show. On Payback this Sunday, Sasha and Bayley lose their women's tag team championships. And that, to me, will exponentially push things forward. And then you have the last championship remaining on those two, which is the most prestigious of them all, which is the SmackDown Women's Championship that Bayley will have held for probably close to a year at that point, whenever she loses it. And I would think that Sasha would be the one to try to take it off of her. So, all right, another point in the women's division here is this just bizarre relationship between Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. They insult each other at the beginning of the show. Well, at the beginning of their segment anyway. And there was some kind of innuendo that Nia Jax was trying to pull off, that, you know, the reason she's back is because she went into the room with the referee and she had to apologize, as if she was insinuating something sexual that happened and trying to make a joke out of it. Also, apparently all you have to do is apologize if you assault a official. That's it. You know, hey, that's how you get reinstated. You just, you know, you do something illegal and you just say, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that'll get you out of it, right? So walk down the street and assault somebody and then tell the police, look, I'm sorry. They'll let you off the hook. I guarantee it. So, I mean, look, it's pro wrestling land, I understand. But these two insult each other like high school children. And, I mean, seriously, it's like the movie Mean Girls, if you guys have ever seen it. It's just like that. And then, during Shayna Baszler's match, we have Nia Jax looming. And then she pulls out Shayna Baszler in her match with Bayley. And they start brawling. And at that point, you know, you're thinking, okay, this is a little predictable. But who am I supposed to cheer for with Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax? Who the hell am I supposed to cheer for? Because they're both heels. Shayna Baszler never really had an official babyface turn. She's the same Shayna Baszler. She's given me no reason to cheer for her. And Nia Jax certainly has not done anything to make me cheer for her. I am not a fan of Nia Jax, and I mean that in a very heel way. And maybe she's just being herself, which is why I authentically don't like the character. And I mean, she has the My Little Pony hair going on. I don't know. Is she just trying to change things up to change things up? I don't know. I don't understand. But the bigger picture here is that they brawl with one another. And then as soon as Bayley and Sasha are seen cheering for them destroying each other, they both just stop. They both stop and then just stare at Bayley and Sasha, who then look concerned. Oh boy. So you just got punched in the face by the person that you're in the ring with, and then you go, that's okay. I'm more concerned about the people that are walking up the ramp. I mean, it was just ridiculous that all of a sudden they're okay with everything, and that they have a common enemy, and that's what they need to. That's something they need to be worried about. Not the person that just punched you in the face. It's the people that are walking up the ramp with the championships you want. I mean, I guess this is the result, though, of a 1 week build. It's like they put 4 weeks or 3 weeks of storylines in a single segment of what happened here. Because this is not what would happen in a normal build to a pay-per-view. But I fully expect Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler to take championships off of Bayley and Sasha to not only kind of change things up, but also continue to further divide Bayley and Sasha, because that's really what the focal point is here. But when you look at this is 4 heels in the ring. You have 4 heels. Bayley, Sasha, Shayna Baszler, and Nia Jax. You tell me which one's the babyface in this one. Nor who are you supposed to cheer for? I'm not cheering for any of them. I mean, if I was in there, honestly, if this was in front of a live crowd, I would expect Bayley and Sasha to be cheered for. Because Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax doesn't feel authentic. Shayna Baszler is unlikable, and same with Nia Jax. She's super unlikable. Who knows? I mean, just who knows? All right. Raw Underground is what it is. The Hurt Business continue to just run roughshod, with Bobby Lashley being relegated to the underground part of Raw. He's no longer welcome on the above ground Raw. He has been just kind of... I'm a fan of the Hurt Business. I think they're a good team, but they're being kind of hidden in Raw Underground. And I still don't know what to think about Underground. I just don't. But, all right. So, I know there's some other things here. Angel Garza versus Montez Ford. And what else happened? We had, Retribution and the arm wrestling featuring Mark Henry. I'm not even going to comment on the arm wrestling. I mean, it's one of those segments, it feels like filler. What are we out there arm wrestling for? Okay. But this segment here at the end with Dominic and Ray versus Seth and Murphy. Again, really good match, as you'd expect from these 4. Dominic really impressed me on SummerSlam. And I was waiting for Retribution to do something. And I've said for weeks that they need to do something beyond just destruction, because it's senseless. It's very one-dimensional. There's no depth to you destroying stuff other than you're just a buffoon that needs to be arrested and put in jail. And that's it. So they needed to solidify this group and make them feel like a cohesive unit that has a mission and a purpose, rather than just kind of this blob of people that are mindless, brainless, just animals that destroy property. That's what WWE presented them as. And on Monday night, last night, they, I think, finally started to take steps to defining who these people are, and that there's an actual subset of those like 20 people that were in the masks that are now coming forward. And they attacked Dominic, and they attacked Ray. I think that they are, I mean, obviously they're a heel group. I'm not a fan of the light flickering. Why would, if you're going to do a surprise attack, why would you let your opponent know? Then it's not a surprise attack anymore. Or is it a heads up? And if it's a heads up and it's purposeful, how do you get access to the lighting in the building every time? I mean, is someone not guarding this? Or do you just have a secret switch? I don't know. I'm again, maybe I'm digging too deep. Or maybe they're not digging enough. You know, you could look at it two ways. Either they're not doing their job of just superficial things to make stories make sense, or they could say, well, you're just thinking too much. It's pro wrestling. Just don't think. Just enjoy. Well, here's the problem. I don't like my intelligence being insulted. So this whole light flickering thing, I can do without. It just makes no sense. Or do they have the ear of somebody in the production truck that says, hey, we're about to come out. Flicker the lights. I mean, which one is it? All three of those options suck, by the way. They're all terrible. So maybe they can come up with a little bit of a better entrance, whatever that entrance is, when eventually they're a part of Raw officially, or SmackDown, or whatever brand they're going to be on. But here's the good thing. Number one, the match was good between these four individuals, and it continued to further the storyline. I loved it. And Dominic, again, by the way, is a real shining light in this. Here's the thing I liked about Retribution. Again, they have defined members. There's like 6 members. Look like there's a couple of women in there as well. There's a couple of big guys. That's good. They're all not just kind of the middle school football team. The height of like a middle school football team. They actually had some good height, good size. That's what you're looking for. Someone needs to come forward as a leader. Someone needs to step forward and speak. WWE needs to stop pretending that they're trying to get these people out of here. If they're truly trying to get them out of here, where's security? Why aren't they chasing them out of the arena or chasing them out of the ring? If they keep saying they're doubling down on security, I mean, I can't even listen to the security thing anymore. It's an absolute joke. But the Retribution at least has defined members. It looks like they're going to take steps now to move forward with this group in a big way. I don't know what the ultimate goal is. I would love to know what their end game is. I bet you they would love to know what their end game is. So overall, it was an okay Raw. I liked Randy Orton's heat. I was slightly thumbs down on Keith Lee. His debut anyway, not him as a character and as a pro wrestler. I was thumbs up about Sasha and Bayley continuing to drive a wedge between them, despite the fact that I wish they were able to pay this off in front of actual fans, not a screen blob of fans, nor the WWE controlled fans of the NXT trainees. And there were some highlights. I mean, downsides were Raw Underground, which continues to disinterest me. The arm wrestling match continues to disinterest me. The fact that Sasha or Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax are suddenly friends after beating each other senseless in the ring just because they saw Sasha and Bayley staring at them and go, wait, we have a common enemy. What are we fighting for? Is just silliness. And especially the week before when Shayna and Nia Jax were staring each other down in the middle of the ring at Raw Underground, that actually made me semi-interested, and Nia Jax walked out. And now they're suddenly best friends. I mean, this is... it's amateur hour sometimes with the writing. It's freaking amateur hour sometimes. But again, I gave you some bright spots. I gave you some low lights, if you will, highlights and lowlights, if that's a word. So I hope you guys enjoy the review. I don't want you to think this is coming off as like, oh, all he does is complain about the product. No, but I'm not going to say something is good when it's not. That's not what the show is. The show is just straight up honesty, because I have no affiliations with WWE. None, which makes this great. So again, guys, thank you for joining me. But tomorrow, don't forget to tune in, because a big interview with Chris Van Vliet. Again, if you don't know who he is, then check out his YouTube channel. He has interviewed everyone under the sun. Huge following, hundreds of thousands of people following him and subscribe to him on YouTube. Has his own podcast. So check that out at Chris Van Vliet, right? So don't forget he does have a podcast. Many people think he just has a YouTube channel, but no. He also does a podcast. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk again about the current product. Very interested to hear what he thinks about what's going on right now with all the storylines and Retribution and Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, where the hell Brock Lesnar is, right? Which is surprising, given that I don't know the last time we had a WrestleMania to SummerSlam time span where Brock Lesnar didn't show his face. So, nonetheless, he's probably sitting pretty up in Montana, or wherever the hell his farm is. But, alrighty. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Tomorrow, again, an interview, and then Thursday and Friday and will be your normal AEW, NXT, and WWE rivalries by Anthony DeMarco coming to you on Friday. And I think you're going to enjoy his next rivalry that he's going to pick up. So I won't spoil it. I'll let him announce it to you on Friday. But then again, after that, I'll be on vacation. So things will be a little bit limited with my voice, but you'll hear all the other hosts, all the great hosts of the show. And then we'll get things going the week after that as we kind of turn over the page into fall by the time I come back on a full show. And we get into football season, and shortly after that, MLB playoffs in this very weird coronavirus era. So, all right, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. I'll talk to you soon.